Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you about my upcoming road trip, why I'm driving instead of flying, what I've done to prepare the car, and where I expect to visit along the way. Welcome back and thanks for being here. If you saw last week's video or follow my other social media accounts, then you know that I've been planning a 7,000-mile coast-to-coast road trip. You may know that I recently flew to California to tend to some family business. The truth is that my mother had been suffering from a terminal neurological disorder and wasn't expected to survive through 2020. So my brother and I met in Fresno and visited her for what we were sure would be our last visit. She died 2 days after we left. It would seem faster and easier to fly back for her memorial service than to drive, but I expect to retrieve her cremains as well as some of her belongings. Now, I don't know what I'm keeping and how much I will take, or whether it would fit in airline baggage, but I do know for certain that I don't want the potential stress or hassle of air travel with cremains, so my wife and I will drive. Since we'll be on the road for an extended trip, we're planning to visit several attractions along the way. Among them are Route 66 in Oklahoma and northern Texas, Pikes Peak, Bonneville Salt Flats, Sequoia National Forest, White Sands National Monument, the Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, and the Tail of the Dragon. I expect the trip to be high-paced and very tiring, with the exception of the 2 days that we'll spend in Central California where my mother used to live. We're basically driving almost straight there and back, with minor detours for car photos. I've made extensive preparations for this trip, some of which I've never done before. Starting with the mechanical items, I did a preemptive intake valve cleaning. There wasn't anything wrong with the car, in fact it ran great, but I decided to do the cleaning early to avoid the potential for any cold start misfires while far from home. The intake valves didn't look bad at all, especially for having 106,000 miles. Of course, now they look brand new after having been blasted with a walnut media. While the car was in the shop, I had the brakes and suspension inspected. I thought for sure the car would need brakes or struts, but nope, they all look great. We'll see how they look after another 7,000 miles at its state inspection. I changed the oil and oil filter, air filter, and cabin air filter, so they're all fresh for this trip. The tires are also low miles, relatively new, and freshly rotated as well. Something I never imagined I'd have to do is prepare for alternative dining options. My wife has dietary restrictions, but what's worse is that plenty of areas are still observing some really inconvenient dining room closures. The ongoing climate has compelled us to carry more of our own food and visit grocery stores instead of restaurants. We've traveled with ice coolers and even a 12-volt cooler in the past, but for this trip, I invested in a real refrigerator freezer that runs off 12 volts or 115. It fits perfectly beneath the parcel shelf and even leaves enough room for a small box of tools, fluids, and parts. Unlike the 12-volt cooler that we had used in the past, this Dometic unit will carry food at a stable temperature from 50 degrees down to -7. We'll be hotel hopping on the journey, so we'll have a microwave oven available to us for breakfast and dinner. For lunch, we'll either endure cold cuts or perhaps a drive-through if the lines aren't too long. The drive-through lines at In-N-Out Burger were ridiculous during my last visit to California. Sorry, no burger is worth that. I'd even consider a larger inverter and a microwave for the car if the GTI wasn't so small. I'll do a full video on this fridge during the trip. Our daughter is joining us in Fresno. She'll fly from a Marine Corps air station on the East Coast. With a fridge, minor spare parts, and tools, as well as baggage for my wife and me, I decided to mount the rooftop cargo box so that she can have plenty of room in an already tight rear seat. I prefer to have the interior mostly clear, so the cargo box will move a lot of stuff out of the cabin. You may be wondering what this is. And if you watch any of my ham radio videos, then you know that this is where I mount my ham radio antenna when the cargo box is mounted. The ham radio antenna is on the other side of the car for this trip. This antenna is a WeBoost cellular signal booster. These are popular with over-the-road truckers, RVers, and overlanders who travel in remote areas. Well, why not a small car? We'll be in a few remote areas too. This antenna sends and receives signals that are outside the car, and then an antenna inside the car interfaces with every cellular device inside the car. An amplifier under the seat makes the magic happen. I'll do a full video on this booster at some point. I've updated my tablet and will be traveling with the extra display. I usually run Google Maps on the tablet and Waze on Android Auto through the MIB2. I like to watch traffic ahead of me on Google Maps and receive police reports on Waze, but I really don't expect to be speeding, so I guess that's kind of entertainment. Anyway, see this video for more details. I've also installed a Blackview dash camera. Given our social climate, I felt it was prudent that I collect evidence as I drive, just in case anything happens. I'll share more about this later. Of course, I have my tie-down straps, trauma kit, and roadside emergency kit behind the driver's seat. I hope I never need them, but they're all good to have. Let me know if I've missed anything or if you have any questions. I haven't planned my updates just yet, but I'll figure out a schedule for the road and keep you informed along the way. Please join us on this journey. I hope to see you out there. Take care.